Good morning and welcome to the show, and thanks for waking up with us today. My voice is leaving me, and here we are in the final weeks of this show, and I'm sick as a dog, and thank goodness I have Dr. Roman Nation here to help heal me. What's wrong with me, Doc, beside the obvious?
Well, as we were talking about before the show started, with stress plays a pretty large factor, but you've been exposed as well. You said your wife went to the show. And,
I went to the Amy Grant show, saw a friend who was sick. She brought it home. Karen was sick, now I'm sick, and it's going around the house.
Passing it around. So the question I would ask you is how much you washing your hands?
Oh, I'm washing them a lot now. Probably a little late. Yeah, probably a little late, but hand washing's important.
It is, and so anytime you're handling food or the going to the bathroom, those kinds of things, those always become important. Where those things tend to pass back and forth with viruses, which is most likely what you've got, is kind of you get the low-grade fever and the body aches and the hoarseness and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's me.
And it's like, do I really want to get up today?
Do I really want to come in and talk to my doctor? Yes, I do, but not on TV. I'll come see you after the show.
Yeah, but those are all things that you get with viral type illnesses. As they progress, then they can turn into bacterial infections as well, because bacteria grows in our, all of our orifices at any given time, and so if your system's already compromised from a viral illness, it can turn into a bacterial one. So,
this thing actually started out little swollen glands, and then, kind of progressed into a head cold, and now it's in my lungs and throat and everything. So.
And that's typically how it goes. Some people use, there's a lot of folks that use antibiotics. There's this whole thing about, antibiotic resistance out. And I tend to, talk to patients about what's your preference, because in the years that I've been doing this, the way it should be done is to give your system time to let it heal and let it deal with it, and it'll help build your immune system stronger. So we'd already talked about, B-complex vitamins and vitamin C, and then plenty of fluids and rest are all key factors for letting your system heal. But I've seen patients that come in and they think they need antibiotics, and so if the clinic doesn't give them, then they'll go to some other urgent care, or they'll think that they get worse overnight, and they'll present to the emergency room, and then the emergency room does their thing, and they're like, fine, just to make you feel like you're doing something, and they'll give them antibiotics.
But it's not necessarily beneficial.
Negative, yeah, exactly. So, the thing that we've grown to find over time is that a small dose of steroids does tend to help people feel better. It doesn't make your system heal faster. It just makes you feel better while you're sick. So
to get well, though, what does it take? Am I hearing it just takes time? You got to work it out.
If you give it just time, it'll tend to get better on its own. Some people take longer to heal than others, depending on your reserve capacity, which plays a big factor in how long you've been stressed and how many stressors you have ongoing.
I'm high on stress, Doc.
But that's what makes your system easily compromised. But then if you back it up and get the proper amount of rest and take some of these stressors out of your life, your system will heal faster. If that's not possible, like somebody who runs a TV show, then it gets a lot harder, and that's where cortisol deficiency becomes a role, and that's where we do shots that has steroids in it, or little set of pills that has steroids in it.
Steroids, that's what I need to bulk up. We got to run off to the local weather, but I want to talk more about me and my and my illness on the other side of your local weather. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're Dr. Roman Nation. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dr. Roman Nation from Nation's Best Family Healthcare in Lynn Haven and Panama City Beach. And he's got his assistant and daughter, Scarlett, with him today. Yay. Welcome to the show, Scarlett.
Thank you.
Now, I hope you don't catch my cold. I'm staying way over here, trying to keep the germ barrier up. But we were talking, if there is such a thing, and there isn't, is there?
Not really.
But hand washing is important.
Hand washing is very important, because you touch, your eyeball or your nose or things like that, and you touch somebody else, and then they do the same thing, and they kind of, do that kind of thing, and that's how those things get passed back and forth. But there's a cough radius, and I forget the actual distance, but it depends on the force of the cough. That, little particulates will actually come out of the person's mouth and get into the other person's.
So just an aerosol
Correct.
will emanate. You
Yeah,
know,
and
that's why you should always
that's
try to
kind of what
cover.
you were talking about with with your wife when she got sick. Is that if they're at a concert and yelling at each other, then you have to use more force. Therefore, whatever germs are in the back of your throat that are having a little fiesta themselves, project it out farther. So your sick radius grows the louder you speak.
It was just like a big germ party she went to, you know. And,
So, but a lot of things that that also happen that can mimic infections like bacterial type stuff or viral type stuff is allergies, which is what Scarlett was talking
Hey,
about.
Dad.
Right.
I'm sick. Let me shake your hand.
there's always
We're
one.
gonna wash our hands later.
Now, say that happens and she passes a germ to you,
Yeah.
or virus. How long can that last on your hands? Or should you wash them right
Actually,
away?
a long time.
Really?
Yeah. So the bugs that go around in viruses are very, very hardy the vast majority of the time because they're actually designed themselves so that they can dry out like most bugs can. Like HIV can't last on a dried surface; it dies. But the viruses that like enterovirus and other types of things that cause sinus stuff or gut stuff, it can dry out, and as soon as you add another drop of water to it, it springs back to life and it can infect you again. So
Wow.
that's why we talk about cooking your food all the way and making sure you're not having raw products or washing your hands quite frequently because that's where you get the raw chicken stuff where you're handling chicken meat. There's viruses and stuff that are in there. If you go from that, don't wash your hands after handling the meat and cook the meat completely, then you can actually still pass it to yourself even though you thoroughly cooked your food.
Yeah, it's amazing how these little bugs can stay alive for so long.
Yeah.
I was watching a thing on PBS, I think it was last night actually, about Ebola in Africa. And but one of the ways that they are cutting down on the rates there is hand washing. I mean, just washing your hands can stop you from getting Ebola.
Yeah.
And it's just something so simple.
Yeah, and there's this huge piece in the media, growing in the media now, that talks about going a little overboard with the germophobia. Because when you look at industrialized nations like the U.S. and Europe and things like that, you have a much higher prevalence of autoimmune diseases like lupus and rheumatoid arthritis and even things as much as like autism and Asperger's and things like that are all kind of very unusual, but they're more common among industrialized nations. So some people think that that's related to taking the germophobia too far.
Sometimes you need to get that bug.
And not exposing yourself to to organisms. So
what about those hand sanitizers like Purell and stuff like
those
that?
Those are all very, very good.
They
Most
work?
of them are alcohol based, and they don't last. I mean, they'll you only need a very small amount, and you don't have to dry your hands with anything. The alcohol evaporates off of it.
Is it as effective as hand washing, or?
Same, actually. It's most of the time it's more effective than hand washing.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I just learned something there.
For the same reason, because when you hand wash, you have to touch the faucet and then wash your hands. Touch the faucet again. Well, you just took a contaminated surface, cleaned your hands up, and then contaminated them again by turning the faucet off.
You got to keep your faucets clean too, I guess.
That's where, or the door handle going in and out of the bathroom. There's all those things are contaminated.
But
surfaces.
at some point, I guess there's a sweet spot in hygiene where you can go overboard or not do enough, and just using common sense.
We have hand sanitizers all over our office. So anytime that I touch a patient or come off, there's a little thing on the thing, and I just, it takes you about 5 seconds, and you're done, and you move on.
Dr. Roman Nation, thank you so much for that wise advice.
Yes,
Good
sir.
to see you again, Scarlett.
Good to see you.
And we'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dr. Aaron Shores from Spine and Neural Pain Specialists here in Panama City and up in Chipley. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Shores.
Thank you.
Hey, you've got a friend here today. What's the deal with this little section of spine?
Well, this is a demonstration of a device that we use in some patients with different types of pain called a spinal cord stimulator.
Okay.
The spinal cord stimulator is a very interesting device that what we do is we put 2 catheters in the back, and these catheters have little metal contacts on them. And what we do is we put it inside the spinal canal, and then those metal contacts lie along the nerves in the back of the spinal cord. And depending on where the patient is hurting, we position those little catheters where they need to be, and those little metal contacts put electricity along the nerves, not to shock the patient, but it can block the pain transmission from different parts of the body. And the nice thing about this is that it has a little remote control about the size of a cell phone that the patient has total control over, which is very easy to use.
So what happens with this? I guess this is the battery case here and the controller and all that.
Sure.
Where does this go?
So this is this would be something that we would put in during the implant phase of this. So this is actually done in 2 phases. There's a trial phase and then there's an implant phase. So the trial phase is just a glorified injection where we just stick these in the back. We tape them to the back. The battery is not there during the trial. And we just send people home with it, and it's in there usually for about a week.
To see if they can tolerate it?
To see if they tolerate it, see if they like it. It doesn't work for everyone. They come back in about a week. We take it out, just pull it right out in the office. And if they didn't like it, then that's the end of the story. If they liked it or it made a substantial difference for them, then we can talk about implanting it, where we put these catheters here under the skin, and then we put a small battery like this. Usually you can put it either in the love handle or in the buttock, the upper part of the buttock, and it's completely self-contained under the skin, and it can stay there for the rest of someone's life if they need to.
Does it leave a scar, a big scar?
Not a big scar. There'd be 2 scars if you went to implant. There'd be a scar about the width of the battery here that would be over the buttock, and then usually there's one about an inch or so in the small of the back, because when we implant it, we put an anchor around each one of these catheters and just sew it to a ligament here in the back. So it's not major spine surgery. It's usually just making 2 small incisions under the skin. So typically the patients will have a small scar, but it's usually, the patient can't see it because it's on the back side of them, but it's very small. Not a major recovery here like traditional spine surgery would be. Patients are usually sore from the incision for a week or so, but after that they're able to use it as much as they want, and when it works really well.
This seems to me, the uneducated eye, rather exotic. How common a practice is that? How common a procedure is this?
It's very common. There are a lot of indications that we can use it for, and some, as technology advances, there are a lot of advances in healthcare where electricity is becoming sometimes a first-line treatment in an effort to decrease other side effects from medications and other drugs. But we commonly use this in folks who've had back surgeries or neck surgeries that have not done well, that have chronic nerve injury, whether that be a pinched nerve in the back. There's something called a peripheral neuropathy that sometimes can be very difficult to treat, that these devices work very well for. Something called RSD, or complex regional pain syndrome, is another diagnosis that sometimes we treat with this. And certain patients that have poor circulation, peripheral vascular disease, sometimes can have persistent pain. And once they've had lots of procedures to increase the circulation, if the pain is still there, this can be an option for them as well, potentially.
And the name of this device and procedure is what again?
This is called a spinal cord stimulator.
A spinal cord stimulator, and it will actually be a pain block in the final equation.
Correct.
Dr. Aaron Shores, this is pretty cool stuff. Thanks so much for bringing this in today, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Stefan Longo, who is a life coach. Stefan, always a joy to see you, my friend.
Good to see you again, Don.
I know last week, we did some relaxation exercises, which I'm hoping people are starting to use throughout their day.
Yes.
But there's some things that hold people back. And one of those things is fear, isn't it?
Well, FEAR, false experiences or expectations appearing real.
Wow, that's one way to look at it. That's great.
What it is. That's
so
what it is.
They're false.
What is your greatest fear, Don?
My greatest fear? I don't know. I'm afraid for my family sometimes.
Right.
I would hate to see one of them get hurt or something. Yeah, that's probably a big fear.
Has it ever happened?
Actually, yes. But
when?
Oh, well, 9/11. I lost a brother on 9/11.
Wow.
And of course, I raised 2 boys who are now 19 and 21, and we've had our trips to the emergency room, and
sure,
as most of us have growing up.
But did that fear keep you from doing what you wanted to do with your boys?
No.
That's right. You overcame it.
Now my wife, their mother, stopped me from doing some things. When I taught my oldest son how to ride a motorcycle, she wasn't too crazy about that one.
Probably not. Probably not. Well, mothers are like that.
They are. And
that's okay.
And that's why we love them.
Right.
Yeah.
But fear is the biggest thing that holds us back from doing what we were meant to do.
How do you overcome it, though? What if you have fear of failure?
Okay.
Or you have fear of...
Well, this is the whole thing. You know, what if I make a mistake? What if I make the wrong decision? What if you do? Make another decision. There's always another way to go. But we don't see that in ourselves. And so we think once we made a mistake, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
You're
done, you're cooked, it's over.
Right, but it's not. It's not. I mean, you've heard the story about Thomas Edison writing the light bulb, and how his critics said, well, how does it feel to fail making a light bulb over 10,000 times? He said, I didn't fail. I just learned how not to make it.
That's right. So each experience like that, where you don't necessarily succeed, is a learning experience, isn't it?
It's a learning experience that you will make sure that you don't repeat it, unless you're crazy, of course, because that's the
definition.
That's the definition of
doing
crazy.
the same thing over and
right.
over again. Yeah.
Expecting different results, right? So if you learn from it, you can go on and you can feel good about yourself. You don't have to feel that fear puts any limits on you whatsoever. You're the one that's putting limits on yourself.
So basically, what I'm hearing is you got to stay nimble. You got to stay agile. You got to keep your options open and realize that there are always options, no matter what.
Exactly. And that no matter how many options you try, when you find the one that's right for you, bingo, there it is, and you've got it. You put that in your toolbox, and that's a great tool that you can use for the rest of your life.
So really, Stephen, it sounds more like a mindset, isn't it? Or
Definitely.
keeping in this positive mental attitude
Yes.
that there's always a way.
There is always a way, and we're taught from ever since we're knee tall to a grasshopper that if you don't do things a certain way, it's not going to work. Our parents did that to us. They did a good job because that's the way they were taught. But that's not necessarily so. You take out any map of any city, and how many ways of getting there are there?
As many roads as you can count.
Exactly. So it really doesn't matter how you get there. It just matters that you get there.
So the shortest distance between 2 points isn't necessarily the shortest way. It's the way you know.
There you go.
Stephen Longo, life coach, thanks so much for giving us those words of wisdom.
You're very welcome.
And we'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Randy Akins from 5L Fitness. Randy is a trainer at Tyndall Air Force Base Gym and also at Impact Fitness in Callaway. Now, not only do you physically train people, but you kind of make up diets for people as well, don't you?
Yeah, I give recommendations based off of the client's need, whether it be for fat loss or athletic needs or whatever their goal is.
So you could work out like a maniac, but you're only doing half the job if you're not eating right.
Yeah, I heard an analogy once that was pretty funny. The thing about people working out and not eating right is, you can never outrun your fork.
Yeah.
Right? It makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
if you eat bad, I mean, you're never going to
Yeah.
lose any weight. So
That's true, and that's like just trying to enter a race with a car with no gas in it, and
same thing. Yeah, or the wrong kind of gas.
Yeah, that's true too.
That's probably true to form.
So nutrition is a key component to fitness.
It is.
Now, is there any kind of overarching rule that you can give people? Because a lot of people are crazy about their diet, like natural, it has to be natural. Does that really make a difference?
It doesn't really matter if it's organic or vegan or gluten-free or whatever.
Free-range chicken.
And most people, aren't
opposed to-
allergic to gluten. Most people aren't. They hear it, and it's one of those buzzwords. What I try to tell people to do is to come up with a list of foods that they know they shouldn't eat. Like all of this stuff that is absolutely
That's an interesting
bad.
approach.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then not eat it for a month and see if they can see any results or any changes.
See, I'm a big snacker, but I eat all the wrong snacks.
Right.
Particularly in the evening, after dinner, I'll sit there, I'll be watching the news or whatever. Watching Fox, of course, and naturally. And I'll go for like a bag of chips, like something I know I shouldn't eat.
Right. Right.
And I don't even know why we keep it in the house.
And that's the thing, we are so well educated on nutrition just because of the media, just because of all of the things that are thrown in our face every day. But we just don't follow our own advice.
Yeah, you hear people having sweet tooths, where they love candy and stuff like that.
Right.
It's salt for me. Anything salty or spicy, I just love.
Yeah, any of those extremes can be a result of you know, either genetics or just stress or whatever your body craves at that time.
And then they came out with those sweet and savory Doritos, and that was the end of it all. You know,
Oh, no, like all at once is too much.
I just can't pack enough of those into my head. You know,
Too much. It's too much. It's overload.
but too much sodium in your diet's no good either.
Absolutely.
Particularly for your blood pressure and all that.
Right. And you know, some sodium is good, especially if you're athletic, but the normal diet doesn't need that much sodium in it.
You know, back in the olden days, even the military, they would give military members salt tablets if they were out in the field.
Right.
If it was too hot to help them retain water.
Right.
Not
Right.
such a good idea nowadays.
Well, the thing about it, the one key thing that you said is retain water. That's what sodium does. It helps to balance your electrolytes and helps your body hold on to water. That's good when it's hot and you're losing it rapidly. But if you're not doing anything active, you don't want to hold on to water because it'll make you gain weight.
Yeah, it'll make you gain weight, and you know all that sodium and stuff will just boost your blood pressure.
Yeah.
Which,
You're basically pickling yourself from the inside.
oh my goodness! Thank you for that disturbing visual, Randy Akins from 5L Fitness. Thank you so much. If people want to get in touch with you, how do we do that?
You can check out my website, www.5lfitness.com, or email me at 5lfitnesspc@gmail.com.
Okay, very good. Randy Akins, thanks so much. 5L Fitness.
Thank you.
Always an interesting conversation. Always fun.
Always good.
We'll see you next time.